everyone. We are recording from Manifest, the future of supply chain in Las Vegas. I'm here with Deema. Deema, how are you doing today?
I'm good.
Good.
Good time.
I caught up with you last at JOC, right?
Yeah.
JOC. We met at Manifest last year. It's been a year. It's been great to know you for a year, Deema.
It has, yeah.
And we've got to catch up at a couple of conferences since. So excited to be talking to you today. For anyone who doesn't know Deema yet, she's fantastic. She's definitely someone I recommend that everyone needs to have a conversation with her, learn more about what she's doing. But on that note, I'd love for you to introduce yourself, tell us more about yourself, your background, and then what BiggerPicture is.
Sure. So Deema, the CEO of BiggerPicture, we're a scheduling and execution platform. Spent my career in freight brokerage, helped build and scale Coyote and Uber Freight, so know the industry pretty well, a lot of the pain points and spending time scaling operations team and really digging into some areas that I felt like were very important within the freight ecosystem from an execution standpoint. So, you know, our industry spends a lot of time in planning, but a lot of things happen. We are always having disruptions or changes, and I really felt passionate about not building tech for the four walls of an organization, but really thinking about how we can improve supply chain efficiency from outside those four walls and taking into consideration, you know, all the different stakeholders involved in those transactions.
Sure. So BiggerPicture, you said, is scheduling, automation, and execution. What does that mean? Can you walk me through exactly what scheduling, automation, and execution is?
Yeah, so today what typically happens is a shipper will tender over a shipment to a carrier, and that carrier is responsible for sourcing a pickup and delivery appointment. It's very manual, typically requires either sending emails or logging into multiple portals to request appointments.
Sure.
Every one of those experiences are very different, even from like emails needing to be structured differently by location. Portals require different sets of information throughout that process, but nothing really is native today within the TMS. So they're living outside their primary system and having to manage that. So for us, we look at two pieces of that experience. One, can we automate and get smarter about scheduling? So, you know, sending an email isn't typically captured in the TMS and understanding like what that exchange looks like. And same with when you're going into a portal. Did I get that appointment I needed? Did I have to go ask for an appointment because there weren't appointments available? None of that has historically been able to be tracked. So now we're automating that through various processes and capturing really important information tied to that experience.
Okay. And I want to ask you a question that we talked before, and I haven't asked you this, but being here and being around all these tech companies and all these AI companies, it's made me think about this space more when we're talking about automation and AI. I've heard of a couple companies now that are kind of positioning as like this, like an AI agent that they're automating like a lot of different types of tasks across a brokerage network. And so you guys are focused on scheduling, automation, and execution. Why the hyper focus into the scheduling space, and what's different from like what you guys do versus kind of like automate a lot of things, AI agent across a brokerage?
So I don't want to necessarily call us an automation platform.
Okay.
We are automating that experience, but the longer term vision and where I felt most passionate about was actually fixing the problems we're seeing within the transaction that occurs. The number of times we have to reschedule appointments. I mean, our customers reschedule appointments over 20% of the time.
Sure.
We see 30% of shipments going into warehouses actually not showing up when they're supposed to show up, and creating this larger bottleneck or ripple effect across the supply chain when these things happen. So when we were looking at OTIF and all of these like chargebacks and thinking about it retroactively, we weren't solving the problem. So when I think about execution, I really think about all the different stakeholders involved in that transaction. So it starts with planning. Can we get the most optimal appointments? Can we do better to plan for the trucks to show up when they should show up? But the execution side really thinks about what does that mean to the warehouse or facility you're picking up at or the receiving end? And what does that mean to the transportation management team who's tendered you that load to manage it? So today we still very much manage the exceptions via telephone, and it's like latent data, right? Like shippers calling the carrier's reaching out to whoever to get the most up-to-date information, and then they're going back to the shipper. So we look at, the AI and the agent component of what we're building is actually bringing those key stakeholders together and being able to solve the exception rather than just thinking about automation at a broker or carrier level for securing appointments.
Okay, and so when you guys are, what does this look like when you go in to actually set up with like a brokerage? Is as far as what is the lift required to deploy your solution within a freight brokerage or a carrier fleet as well?
Yeah.
I imagine you don't have to work with just freight brokerages, right?
No, we work with asset-based carriers and brokerages. We can get up and running in under 2 weeks. We've got customers who are using our application who are already seeing a 70% improvement in time spent in scheduling tasks,
Wow.
which is pretty amazing. That's
Yeah.
without any API or any direct integration that's happening there.
Okay.
But then we've got like a low-code solution that really puts it within the TMS experience and allows it to be more native for those users. And then we have a full API experience as well. So as carriers are getting more open to APIs in the scheduling workflow, we're able to get fully integrated, and then really it's just happening in the back end of the TMS. So the TMS really is where we want to live. We want to get rid of the inbox.
Yes.
Everything that's happening in the inbox today can actually be visible and managed within the TMS.
I think that needs to be like overemphasized right now, and we need to spend a moment on that, just because when we got so conditioned to thinking about automation as something that you have to connect, you have to integrate something, you have to set up like a connection, and what you're doing specifically on the email side is not something that like is as simple as building a API connection into a scheduling portal for some grocery receiver back into your TMS. That's not what it is. You guys are actually deploying like a more I guess like an actual solution that sits within the TMS workflow that's executing on not just the portals but also the emails and all types of scheduling. So
I would say emails are actually the most important. About 60% of appointments are scheduled over email. And
yeah,
then
that sounds
only
about right.
Like 30% are in portals.
Sure.
And there's like a tail end of the portals, but there are like the key large TMS portals or schedulers. But I don't think people realize how complex scheduling can be. So we have, like for any given facility, we can have a like direct customer login credential. So like if it's E2 open and it's your customer who's on E2 open, it's one workflow. But if you are hauling a load for another customer into that E2 open customer's facility, you have a third-party portal that's a different workflow, right? Different APIs. But then you have, if the appointment's not available in the TMS, what does that rep usually do? They have to leave the portal, go send an email to go request that. So we actually manage all of these complexities to such a degree that we've thought through all of the exceptions that these guys are going through today, why scheduling is so incredibly frustrating for these reps to manage.
Yeah, and then I would also have to imagine that there's probably a kind of like a second layer to all this. As you guys are working across all these organizations and you're going into all these facilities, I bet you guys have a huge database of information.
Yeah.
Is that information that can it be like used across other, I guess what I'm trying to say is as multiple companies are feeding in data into this database, is it helping just kind of create a more connected ecosystem in general across all these shipper facilities?
So we actually have a doc management solution to help facilities start to digitize that experience. But through that one, if you're receiving like 1 million emails in scheduling, we now digitize that for you in a view that you can see everything that's come in.
Sure.
But secondary to that, it's also a way for us to validate your information. So how do you schedule? What are your shipping and receiving hours? Do you have specific rules around how far in advance we can schedule with you? Or can we reschedule same day? Like there are parameters that these guys, if you see the signatures in some of these emails with all the rules they have, we digitize that, right? So once we get the validated information, that's available to everyone in our network to get clean data about these facilities. So we're managing it not just on a carrier level basis, and let me tell you that data is so dirty. Like they have the same facilities built over and over again in different ways, whether it's a different name or it's got street versus ST. I mean, it's crazy.
Yes.
But so we're managing a lot of that, and we're able to condense that as a single facility and understand how that facility operates rather than that facility profile operates. So there's a lot of opportunity that we're driving there through the connectivity and value creation that we're also bringing back to the facility side of things.
Okay. Now, I have to ask, I have also heard of several other, maybe like definitely on the dock management space, but also scheduling automation. When I met you a year ago, you were the first time I had ever heard of scheduling automation. So I think that just as a whole, as automation has progressed, people are starting to kind of figure out, okay, scheduling automation, we're talking about it more. I've heard other companies doing scheduling automation. That's not new. I've seen multiple types of, there's several now that do pricing, there's several that do scheduling. But I would like to know, like, how is BiggerPicture different? What do you think is different about your solution as opposed to some of the other tools that are out there?
I can't speak to the pricing or like the phone call automation and things of that nature. I think the way that we look at automation for us is, what does it mean for the supply chain ecosystem, and not so much of like driving efficiency and automation within a single business entity. Again, like,
how do you think you're different than other like scheduling solutions?
So for us, one, our end-to-end software, we look at it not just as a point solution, like just give me this stop and I'm going to schedule this stop. So we're looking at the entire shipment. We look at transit times. We look at the behaviors of what's the anchor appointment. When appointments change, we're actually continuously running our optimization system to identify that those transits aren't going to work. We're surfacing all of this in real time so that we're not kind of catching up after the fact and getting into a position where now that carrier is stuck with an appointment or getting held up. So it is an end-to-end solution, and again, that's where we go back to exception management. You can't really solve if you're only looking at like a point of a shipment versus the entire thing.
Okay. And then also curious, on the dock scheduler side, who are you guys working with within that? Are you guys partnering with the shippers? Are you partnering with like 3PL warehouses? What's the vision for this full like end-to-end solution?
So yes, we're partnered with the shipper TMSs that have the schedulers and dock management, WMS solutions where we're fully integrated. Our first stage is really at the warehouse level where we're able to start managing. If you think about it's a very static experience today. So here is the plan. These are the trucks that we want coming in and out. This is what we plan to handle from a throughput perspective. When things change and you call facilities today to say, hey, I'm running behind, they're like, well, come in and we'll work you in, we'll figure it out when you get here, which is only creating a further bottleneck. Like we are in warehouses today. We see the trend by 3 o'clock just getting worse and worse because of all the things that are happening, right? So how do we get to a more dynamic experience for them where they've got visibility for the trucks that we're scheduling into their location, but also understanding the priority of shipments? When you're thinking about like OTIF, you should see the things I'm seeing like across the communication. We are not prioritizing that truck, even though if we don't get it there on time, the cost to me as a shipper is going to be much more significant than paying the detention of the other driver who had to wait an extra 30 minutes or 2 hours, if you will, to get out the door.
Right, but that's an example of like a miscommunication, but like that's an example of like what a transportation team prioritizes versus what a distribution team prioritizes versus what the actual like sales and customer service team prioritizes with that retailer. So how does your solution help kind of like bridge the gap across the different parts?
So we start with the carrier, then the warehouse, and giving them that better visibility into what's happening, but then also from the transportation management team who's still calling the carrier to know what's happening at their warehouse, that full visibility. So our system actually sits between all of them. So we're able to help drive the prioritization from load tender all the way through execution at pickup and delivery.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And one other question, I have to ask it. It's been a trending topic. I want to know about AI within what you're doing. We talked about it a little bit, but to what extent is AI aiding in your solution? Is it involved in your solution? And just like, what do you see like the potential and the future for that?
Yeah, we are leveraging AI. One, in the information that we're actually capturing in those exchanges, whether it's email or portal, from the facility side. So every exchange, we're looking at available dock appointments, reschedules, performance of how we did on these appointments, and building kind of like more of a machine learning, if you will, on the predictability. But then the second piece is actually when we're starting to see exceptions, we're looking at how will we respond to those exceptions? What is the importance of your truck's on-time arrival versus the warehouse's ability to respond or OTIF? And each one of those that are engaging with our solution is actually training our model, because nothing is documented anywhere. It's all like tribal knowledge and how they perform. So those insights allow our agent to actually provide an actionable solution when disruptions occur, rather than always having to have somebody making a decision with half the information at their fingertips.
Okay, my last question for you. What is the ROI here? Because we talked a lot about the solution, scheduling, automation, and execution. But what does it actually look like for a broker, for a carrier? Why, everything has to be about ROI these days. Like, nobody can just invest in technology that doesn't somehow pay for itself, more or less.
Yeah.
Especially in a broker space right now where margins are critical. So what does the thought process look like, and what is there's definitely a shift. Like, you guys have had amazing growth and success, so congratulations on that. But we're hearing about it a lot more now. Like, people want to adopt scheduling, automation, and execution. So why is that?
It's a major cost center. It's very manual. It's typically ingrained in an operations rep's day between building, quoting, customer engagement, and scheduling. So 20% of their day is allocated to that. We're already at a 70% time reduction for them to go focus on revenue generating activities or
Sure.
building customer relationships or solving more pressing matters. So we're seeing over a 10x ROI for those customers engaging with our platform. But then there's also the second piece, right? Getting your shipment to market faster, managing your margins, making sure your appointments are actually good appointments, so that the carrier doesn't want to charge you additional for having to either lay over or not getting their efficiency in the turn out of their truck. So we start with the labor efficiency and then really move on to the margin improvements or lack of margin depletion, if you will, from there. And then when we think about the warehouse, we're thinking about throughput, labor utilization. About 15% of their cost is actually overtime for their employees due to the fact that they're so inefficient in managing the inbound and outbound. And then we look at OTIF for shippers. How do we manage to that in real time rather than think about it after the fact and see where we went wrong and whose fault was it?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for making some time to talk to me again. I know you're on LinkedIn. I see your stuff on LinkedIn, so if anyone wants to connect with her there, you absolutely should. And then what's another way that they could get in touch if they want to learn more about BiggerPicture, maybe see a demo or connect to just talk through scheduling automation?
Yeah, find us at biggerpicture.co. You can book a demo there. You can also find me on LinkedIn, like you said, and book a demo. Would love to hear from you if you're interested, and looking forward to it. Yeah, we're really excited about what's going on, and we're seeing some amazing traction, and lots to come here in the next month or two.
Okay, and I'm sure I'll see you at some conference again in the next 6 months or so, and we can get caught up. But thank you so much for making the time to come on the show.
Thanks for having me.